Well, that's just convenient. McTusk's right next to the Clockworks. Any bets on who wins that fight? Hey there, my name is Soundrak, and welcome back to another episode of my Don't Starve Reign of Giants Wagstaff playthrough series. Last session, we finished exploring and looting one of the world's ancient ruins, and then beeline for Maxwell's door in the final stage of Wagstaff's journey. But will the challenges imposed by Maxwell in adventure mode prove too much for him? Let's find out. Upon entering Maxwell's door, we learn that the first chapter we'll have to face is one of the more challenging options, the King of Winter. We then find Wagstaff sleeping on the ground while a very blurry Maxwell gives us a little bit of dialogue. Spectacles go on, I grab the divining rod and nearby loot, and immediately set off to gather some basic supplies. I'll be doing a full guide on all the chapters of Adventure Mode in my Reign of Giants Beginner's Guide series, but of course we'll talk a little bit about Adventure Mode in general during these Wagstaff episodes. Long story short, there are 5 chapters you must complete in order to make it to the epilogue, and each chapter changes the rules of the game in various ways. In order to complete any given chapter, you must use the divining rod that always spawns next to you to find the various thing items, and then assemble them at the wooden circle thing to make a Teleportato and advance to the next chapter. This chapter, the King of Winter, starts out with freezing temperatures and an eternal winter where the days are short. The dusk period lasts half the day, and then there's a night that is just over a quarter of a day. Because it is winter, vegetative resources such as grass, twigs, and berry bushes will not regrow, though trees will. Staying warm can be a challenge, but is offset by the fact that you can simply burn all the things to stay warm. As each chapter of Adventure Mode is temporary, so there's no need to conserve anything as you rush on to the next world. It's already dusk and I'm starting to get cold, so I burn a few trees to get warm. I go ahead and chop down the burnt trees as charcoal is a nice fuel source for campfires, then continue gathering critical survival materials while outlining my starting area. King of Winter generally starts you out on a resource-rich area that has plenty of stuff you'll need, but doesn't always have gold in it, which of course I'll need to learn new items and structures. And speaking of which, when you go into Adventure Mode, you always forget everything you knew outside of Adventure Mode, and only start with whatever items your character normally has at the start of a new world. So in Wagstaff's case, a single pair of spectacles. By the time night arrives on the first day, I'm getting cold again, but I have a pretty good start on my materials. I explore for about half the night, then decide to go arsonist to warm up, spawning pengals in the process. In addition to warmth, the burning trees provides a lot of light, so I go ahead and gather more charcoal, taking care to make a backup torch once the trees are out. Just before dawn, I go ahead and make a campfire to cook up some food to maximize nutrition. Right about where I spent the night, I'm very pleased to find some gold veins guarded by Hound Mounds. My best weapon is currently an axe, but it works well enough to defeat the Hounds and destroy the Mounds, then I go ahead and mine up some gold. Back by the Pengals, I go ahead and drop a science machine and start prototyping. Armed with a spear and log suit, me and the Pengals later take down a duo of Hounds, then I head up to gather more gold and clear out more Mounds. Now that I've got enough gold for an alchemy engine, I go ahead and head back to my science machine, then pre-craft a crockpot. I might set up a small base at some point, but want to explore more before placing any other structures. But first, I'll need more logs, so I get to work just as dawn arrives on day 3. Worlds in Adventure Mode generally follow a fairly linear path, but I've had instances where an area I had previously passed connected to another area. Since the Hound Mound area likely leads to the next area, I go ahead and map out the rest of the initial area just to be sure. And based on the tones of my divining rod, I can tell that I'm getting further away from the nearest thing. Day 4 arrives and I find a small savanna with several rabbit holes. Although I won't use them with Wagstaff, this chapter generally starts you out with a rabbit earmuffs blueprint. But because the days are so short, it can be tricky to trap any rabbits unless you dig up the holes and then trap them, which I demonstrate just for fun. I go ahead and make the earmuffs, but as a courtesy to you, my dear viewer, I won't be using them as the resulting blurriness is a bit headache-inducing. The rest of the day is spent exploring the area, and I make it back to my science machine about a minute before night and decide to go ahead and place a fire pit and crockpot. I've got enough foods that I might as well make some healthier dishes and start off with a pierogi to get healed up a bit. I craft the boards for my alchemy engine, but then realize that I need more rocks to finish it, so I go ahead and start mining the mini glaciers that will provide some rocks along with ice that I'll use as filler for more meatballs. Daytime of day 5 is spent gathering more resources surrounding the Pengals while I continue to cook more meatballs, Then during the dusk I explore that last bit of coastline of my starter area. I still need more rocks for my alchemy engine, so I head up into the interior of the island to see what I can find, and stumble upon a fun little set piece. The icebox here is sometimes a trap that instantly changes your season to winter, but since it's already winter, I go ahead and open it, causing nothing to happen, and then go ahead and take the winter hat with me, even though I don't plan on using it. Day 6 arrives back at camp as I'm cooking up some pierogi for the road while offloading some of my inventory. Then I decide to run up and see what's past the Hound Mound area. Usually in this chapter there are small land bridges that are blocked by obelisks that require you to be insane to get past them. Turns out there aren't any here, but instead I find a big savanna. A little ways into dusk I come across a suspicious dirt pile and start to follow it, and come across a triple McTusk village in some Beefalo, which will be fun to play with when it's daytime again. Further ahead is a double boon with a houndtooth jacket and a bunch of cutstone, very nice. I'm starting to get cold again, so I start lighting grassy tufts on fire while opening dirt piles, and eventually find myself a winter koalefant. I have a little bit of trouble getting him stuck in a corner, but eventually smack him to initiate combat, and then retrieve my backpack to gather up the loot. I'm pretty well set on food now, but haven't found any of the things or a land bridge yet, so I keep on exploring. I'm planning to turn the koalefant trunk into a puffy vest, but we'll need some beefalo wool and spider silk to make it. I try feeding some sleeping beefalo some grass to lure him away from his buddy, but he just stands there in the darkness. So eventually I decide to smack him to get him moving, but then up spending the rest of the night running around my campfire when the buddy decides to run over too. A little while after morning arrives, I finally got enough distance from the other beefalo that I can kill this one, and then warm up with a campfire before killing another cow, finishing off a third near the fire. Next, I head up to the little bit of coastline I hadn't quite mapped out while hunting the koalefant, and see a forest area that is most likely the next landmass area. So I head back the other way, and there's the bridge, currently blocked because I'm not insane. I continue mapping along the coast, burning grass to warm up now and then, and make it back to my Penguin camp a little after nightfall. I finally get my alchemy engine prototyped, but don't want to place it quite yet, as I'll probably want to move it up by the Insanity Bridge. Looking at my map, I don't think I've seen any spiders so far, and I still need 8 silk for my puffy vest. Also, I forgot to mention that Deerclops has a chance to spawn around day 7 to 9 in King of Winter, which is a great way for going crazy to get past the bridge, but definitely something I'm mindful of as I near day 8. I would also really like to get a walrus tusk from the McTusks to make a walking stick, and decide it's time to relocate camp up by the bridge and go ahead and smash my crockpot, then burn some trees for more charcoal for a new one. Crockpot gets pre-crafted but not placed, then I head off to explore more of the interior of the starter area to see if I can find some spider dens, and lucky day, here's a nest. It's only level 1 though, so I won't get enough for the puffy vest, but it is a start. I chop down a few trees to fill up my stack of logs, smash the science machine to recover its materials, then drop a bunch of stuff on the ground that I don't want to take with me. I decide to keep the winter hat though, as my spectacles are running low and I haven't seen a single source of pigskin so far. So apologies in advance if they break and I resort to normal headgear, as I'd rather wear the winter hat and have blurry vision than switch to a visor and only see half the screen. After warming up by the fire, I then head off towards the land bridge and come across another spider den in the savannah, and it's level 2. Backup spear gets made, fire gets stoked, then I start attacking the arachnids. The nest gets emptied and taken down just after dawn, and now I've got enough silk for my puffy vest. Further ahead, I run into a triple McTusk hunting party and lead them back towards the Beefalo in order to incite some violence amongst the locals. They take the bait, and then it's cattle versus walrus mayhem. I pick one walrus and start to chase him off, but almost faceplant into yet another hunting party that I hadn't discovered yet. So I double back to find more Beefalo defenders, and then drop a campfire to warm up. Eventually, the McTusks arrive and attack the Beefalo again, and I finally manage to down a walrus by the Insanity Bridge. No tusk though. Looks like the Beefalos didn't have any better luck, so I go back to the fire to warm up some more. Then back up in the war zone, I go ahead and pick up the free wool, and then head into the interior, as I suspect this is where my first thing lies waiting. And I'm right. I swap the circle thing for some monster meat I don't need, and then head back towards the Insanity Bridge. I'd been hoping that a Deerclops would have spawned by now, as it would have been hilarious to let him farm the McTusks for me, but having not seen it by now, and with my sanity having naturally dropped to crazy levels, I go ahead and run past the barrier, then cook up some green caps on the other side to get my sanity boosted back up. It's a full moon and I can tell there's another thing nearby, and up ahead I find the box thing guarded by a garden gnome. I don't think there's usually a pig king in this chapter, so I just leave the gnome, then head back to the bridge where I decide to set up a new camp. Alchemy engine gets placed, and then I craft the puffy vest, which will allow me to explore much faster as I won't need to pause to warm up so often. I go ahead and place another crockpot so I can convert my meat stockpiles into more nutritious dishes. Then shortly after dawn of day 10, I put on my new coat and run off to explore. This area has rocky lands and forests, so lots of wood, stone, and twigs, but not much grass. Further ahead, it sounds like my divining rod has found another thing, so I head into the interior and find the crank thing set piece with its pig and pig house. Pigskin at last! I drop a campfire to warm up, and am then annoyed when the pig wakes up to go attack some spiders, as I was hoping he would just turn into a werepig when night fell for full moon night too. Oddly enough though, I'm pretty sure he went into his house, yet the spiders went running off somewhere else. Once I'm warmed up, I go ahead and smash the boulder for some golden rocks, then craft a hammer and smash the house just after night arrives. I quickly grab the pig skins while the pig transforms, then start fighting the werepig just after my spectacles break. I probably should have converted them into a visor, but oh well. A new pair of spectacles gets made, I warm up by the fire, grab the stuff I want and ditch the stuff I don't, and then cut across the interior to find the opposite coastline and follow it back towards my mini-camp. Day 11 arrives as I come across a spider-infested rocky land, which per usual has plenty of gold lying around. But with no land bridges out that way, I head back to camp, finding more gold in a graveyard. At camp, I go ahead and make a ham bat, and having found 2 thing items in this area, am ready to move on and go ahead and smash my alchemy engine and then pre-craft a new one. Crockpot likewise gets smashed, but since I go almost crazy while gathering materials for a new crockpot, I decide to head back past the first bridge to give the McTusks another chance to gift me with a walrus tusk. Looks like only one hunting party has respawned, so I let the Beefalo deal with the Hounds while I take out the McTusk, and there it is! 1 walrus tusk, perfect! The walking stick really is one of the best items in adventure mode, as most of your time, especially past the first chapter, is just spent running around looking for things, so anything that makes the process faster is a huge benefit. I run off a fair ways to get away from the igloos, then stock up on grass, which I don't know if I'll find much more of later in the level. With my grass mostly full and sanity nice and low, I warm up one last time at the campfire, then run back to the bridge. Night falls, so I drop a campfire and start chopping down some trees. If a terrorbeak spawns, I'll want to have plenty of light to fight him, and soon enough, Steve rushes me from the darkness. The hambat takes it down pretty fast, boosting my sanity along the way, and then I decide to light the forest on fire to stock up on charcoal again. By the end of the daytime, on day 13, I've got a full stack of charcoal, which I'll use for fire fuel, but then decide to dig up some graves to see if I can find a red gem, and the 3rd grave gives me one. Fryfocals had worked really well down in the ruins last episode, so I go ahead and make a pair and then start fighting shadow creatures. After they're defeated, I realized that my backpack had burned next to the campfire, and also realized that I never learned how to make one since that was provided at the start of the chapter. So stuff gets dropped, pickaxe gets made, and I mine some nearby boulders so I can make another science machine. Yeah, I could have just placed the alchemy engine, but I didn't want to have to recraft it when all I need right now is the backpack. Stuff gets gathered up, I warm up by the fire, and then run around in the forest to replenish my low supply of twigs. By the time it's dusk of day 14, I decide I've got enough, and head up to more unexplored coastline to find the next area. Along the way, I find a touchstone and naturally pause to gather the free pigskin. Normally in adventure mode, I don't worry much about pigskin, but since Wagstaff needs it for his spectacles, I figure I might as well stock up now and take it with me to the next chapter. And since I now have an abundance of it, I decide I'm tired of looking at yellow snow everywhere and switch back to the spectacles. Up ahead, I find the bridge to the next area, and it's blocked by another insanity checkpoint. I'm not sure why I dropped a fire pit, but after warming up a bit, go ahead and run up the other way just to make sure there wasn't anything I missed. Back at the bridge, I'm almost crazy, so I stand at the edge of the light to expedite the process, then grab my backpack, do a little tango with a crawling horror while warming up a bit, and then proceed to the other side, drop another campfire, and drop my friend Bob, only to have him be replaced by another Bob. Day 15 arrives and I'm off exploring, restocking my grass in the savannah, and about a minute later find the metal potato thing, the last one I needed. I continue exploring the savannah during dusk, find some more beefalos, but appear to be nowhere near the wooden circle thing. But as I head into the forest near the potato thing set piece, my divining rod starts to pick up the trail. Since the final set piece will be guarded by clockworks, I just spend the night boosting my sanity a bit with green mushrooms, and then smash some pig houses in the morning and continue exploring, dropping campfires as needed to warm up. The divining rod starts going crazy, and then I stumble upon both the wooden circle thing set piece as well as another McTusk camp. Looks like the McTusks are going to help me clear out the clockworks in the morning. I decide to circle back around the other way, find another pig house, and then go ahead and drop my alchemy engine just past the edge of the set piece. Walking stick gets made right away, then I make a visor and run in to take out a bishop. Looks like the McTusks had already taken out a knight, but themselves were defeated by the bishops, so there should just be one more bishop and probably another knight. Unlike in the regular world, this set piece in adventure mode doesn't ever have a rook. Blow darts take out the other bishop, handbat downs the final knight, and now the area is secure. I wait most of the night out by the campfire, then put on my puffy vest to explore the area a bit more. There are a few structures I'm thinking about pre-crafting before moving on to the next chapter. Although you forget everything when you first enter adventure mode, any recipes learned or structures pre-crafted but not placed will be taken with you to subsequent chapters. Day 17 arrives and I find more pig houses, but feel like I've got more than enough pigskins, so I let them keep their dwellings. I finish my outline of the area, then wander around looking for more boulders, as I'll need some more stone for pre-crafting structures. Then up in the woods I finally find Chester's eyebone. He's really handy in adventure mode if you can find him early in a chapter, but this late he's not so helpful. I pick him up anyways, then warm up with a campfire. Back at the set piece, I place the things to construct the Teleportato and open its inventory, turning it into a replica of Maxwell's head. I'm debating a bit whether I want to just move on or maybe pre-craft a few more structures, but ultimately decide, meh, what the heck, let's go. Teleportato gets loaded with pigskin, gold, walking stick, and puffy vest, then I hit the let's go button to journey onwards into the next chapter, which we'll do in the next episode. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers!